My name is Jonathan Gillum.
And this is The Experts.
This is Jonathan Gillum, and we are back on The Experts here in Manhattan. Ain't no Shia LaBeoufs here, that's for sure. No communists either. This is a patriot program. We don't even consider stuff like liberal and conservative. So we're gonna get right to some of these questions that people are having, like what is the evidence? What are you saying? Because I think Donald Trump Jr. and what happened, or what is happening, is just further evidence that there was collusion with the DNC and the Clintons and the Russians. And I've been saying this, folks, for a long time now. I got to get everything adjusted for this show back now that I'm back. But we're going to talk about this, and I'm going to hopefully shed some light on what I think, based on my training and expertise and experience in all these different fields of investigation, what I think is actually happening that everybody's missing. Let's talk about it. All right, we're getting ready to block somebody. Hold on. This is right off the bat with Twitter. Somebody's calling me a racist. Maybe we should give them time to tell us why they think I'm a racist. Let's see here. Go ahead. We'll give you a few seconds. But I'm not going to entertain this whole Twitter nonsense like I've been entertaining. I'm going to call that off shortly. Let's just see what they have to say. I don't know who that was. Probably somebody who, a lot of people. It's funny. You know, I talked about this yesterday on the program that I did from late. I did it late, and I did it from I did it from my truck because I was in Ohio. I met Noreen and Bob. They're friends of the show. And with the 912 Project, which we heard about a long time ago, and with Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck, I don't believe is even associated with it anymore. And so I was in Marietta, but not Georgia, in Ohio, and the 912 Project, and I spoke with them, a tremendous group of people. And, you know, they really did prove what I've been saying all along. I got hat hair. Look, I didn't even have time to come in. I literally, I'll get to that in a second. But they proved to me yesterday what I've been saying for a long time. I can't take credit for the initial discovery of this. Really, it was Timothy Ferriss who said that in the 4-hour body that there are ways to get maximum results, minimal effort. Now, it doesn't mean that when he says minimal effort, it's like you're going to go to boot camp and give it minimal effort and expect to have, be a SEAL. That's not the way what he's talking about here. But in the case of it's trickery where, when you're working out, if you take ice baths and you're trying to lose weight and you do ice baths 3 times a week, you can actually trick your body into burning over 50% more calories than if you went running. Every day for an hour. So it's minimal results, maximum minimal effort, maximum results. So should I block this person, whoever this is? Kent Simones. If you're going to come on here and be a troll, dude, we're just going to block you. All right. Bam. He's gone. So I'm going to have to give somebody administrative rights to do this here pretty soon because I can't do this at the same time. But the 912 project in Marietta, Ohio, they proved – listen, I'll tell you exactly what they did. I didn't expect this. I don't show up to get handouts from anybody. Norma asked me to come out there, and I went out there. I didn't expect anything, didn't expect a lot of people. She did an amazing job, and people showed up, and that's how you start this dialogue. And they took an offering, just like you would do in church, and it was a pretty amazing turnout, and it's going to benefit this show tremendously. So it just goes to show when a lot of people give even the minimal amount of effort, how far that can go. So I was very touched by that. Didn't even think that was going to happen, and so Glenn and the rest of them up there or over there in Ohio, I can't thank you enough for that. So yeah, you read that correctly. Somebody asked if they read it correctly. So here's how I'm going to show you all this. We're going to, well, let me explain this to you real quick before I go to the A block. And I know I'm running behind here, but so I pull up, and there's two pristine parking spaces. There's certain places in New York. I'm not going to get into detail about it because it's my own thing that I figured out, and I don't want to give anything away. But there's ways. Let's just say there were two pristine parking spaces, okay? And I couldn't fit in either one. And so the reason I got up here later was because I did not want to give up on trying to get into those parking spaces. I have a big Suburban, and literally, if I had 6 more inches in either one of those parking spaces, I'd have been in there. Unfortunately, it just didn't work, so I had to park it in another location. So, it is what it is. So I come in the apartment. It's boiling hot. I don't know if you can see. I'm already starting to sweat like crazy. My hair is starting to stick to my arm. And so it's going to take a while for the air conditioner and stuff to kick up. But listen, we're here, and I wanted to get up here so we could have a real show, even though it was a little bit late. And my big old Suburban is big on greenhouse emissions. It submits admissions to the emissions. I'm all about a big truck, and love it. I love the fact that if I get into a crash in Manhattan, I'm going to win. That's great. I love it. I love the fact that I can pull over when I'm driving because I'm tired, and I can get in the back where I have a bed created in there, and I can go to sleep with my dog. I like the fact that when it snows, I put it in 4-wheel drive, and I can get right out of there and go wherever I need to go. So, yeah, I love having a big truck no matter where I'm at. So let's go to the A block, and I'm going to explain to you what the whole gist of my title for the show tonight is about. And I've talked about this before, so it won't be too much of a surprise for people that regularly watch this show. So let's go to the A block.
The A block, yeah.
All right. Oh, we'll do it in Shia LaBeouf's voice.
The A block, I love this one.
That guy, I'm telling you what, I wish, I don't wish ill on anyone. Except for our enemies. And I still wish that they would find God, but if somebody has to introduce them, I'd be more than happy to help out with that. But Shia LaBeouf, I'll tell you this. That guy's an incredible actor. I think he's an amazing actor. I think he's a product of bad parenting and being a child actor in Hollywood, which is probably one of the most drug-filled, pedophilia places on earth. I was going to use some other choice words, but so, I give him a hard time. I made that little video today, and I put a voice in there, but there's a time when you have to grow up. And I wish some of these people that are child actors, we could sit down with them and show them the reality. I've got to meet a couple of them, and they're really not all of them. I don't know Shia LaBeouf, but the ones I met were not bad people. But they were led down a bad path by bad parenting and by Hollywood. And, Shia LaBeouf, it's not that that I have any fixation on that guy. The fact is, though, it's like the Dixie Chicks. I used to love to listen to the Dixie Chicks. I think that whatever her name is, the lead singer, probably has had one of the most profound voices in modern country. And They blew it by going out and acting like idiots and, one, not understanding what this country is all about, not understanding about what country music fans are all about, understand that they have a craft, and if you're going to make political announcements, especially when you're not in the country, you better make sure that you think all this stuff through, and you better make sure that you're making an educated decision before you even get to the point where you're speaking out, which most of these people don't. And, you know, it's a shame when you see these people going this way. But, and I don't, you know, that's the thing. I can't endorse the Dixie Chicks because I think they're communist. And as I said, which I've got the recording of the speech that I gave yesterday. I'm going to chop it up and put it on here for everybody to see. I'll do that tomorrow. But, you know, I was talking about this yesterday. I'm going to get to this investigation stuff here in just a minute. This whole transgender issue, I'm going to milk this all in together. This whole transgender issue that's going on right now, and everybody in the Army, the women are being told, you know, you will be respectful and get used to the male transgender genitalia in your showers, stuff like that. I mean, it's just weird. It's just an odd leap forward for our society when our society is not anywhere close to being ready for that. I don't know if they ever will, but you definitely don't make changes in society like that. And it's not going to help them in the long run at all. But the reason I was talking about this yesterday when I was speaking to the 912 Project is that it doesn't matter if you're a female and you get a sex change to a male, your DNA is still female. Same thing with if you're a guy and you feel like you're a woman, you go get a sex change, your DNA still says that you're a male. Now, we could have a whole show on this and why I believe that a lot of this stuff is happening. Seems like it's more and more, but that's a whole nother show. The point I was trying to make was about the DNA. And the Dixie Chicks, Shia LaBeouf, all these different people that are left, more than just saying I'm liberal, but left and then very far left. And then they say they're not communist. Well, you still have the DNA of a communist. You know, the Black Lives Matter individuals who don't really understand what they're doing when they go out in the street and stuff. I'm sure that there's some of these people that don't realize what they're doing and they don't really know why they're even angry. They're believing a narrative that's being told to them. They still have the DNA of terrorists, using fear and intimidation and violence for a political aim. That's the definition of terrorism. So they have the DNA of terrorism. The DNC has the DNA of communist, of terrorist. Yeah, I said terrorist in the DNC. They use fear and intimidation and violence, evidently, for all the people that have died around the Clintons. But they don't necessarily do it themselves. They use the different branches coming off of the communist and the Islamic Red-Green Alliance tree trunk. And so what they do is they use the media, they use Hollywood, they use news, they use all these other groups to intimidate. They use bots on Twitter and on Facebook. They use trolls and all these different places. They use trolls to go out and try to insult and intimidate people. They use I saw one video, they had a car show and they had one of the General Lees out there. And some girl comes up there and completely disrupts the whole car show, saying that there's going to be a letter writing campaign and this is racist. And then she's going off and she sees another guy with dark skin there and she starts telling him that he should be ashamed of himself. That's intimidation tactics. That's using fear and intimidation for political aim. So they're not going to allow people to have freedom of expression, freedom of speech because they don't like it. You know, nobody ever that I know of has ever been ran over by a General Lee car, specifically or at all, and because they were white supremacist or racist. I've not seen it. They'd be more likely to be hit by a car of the same make and model in a black-on-black crime in Chicago than they would somebody with light skin running over somebody purposely with a General Lee car. I just don't see it happening. Don't make a liar out of me, somebody. So the whole point of what I'm saying is that Shia LaBeouf, Any of these people that they say that they're not communist, they're communist. Their DNA says that they are communist. So, Prince of Carnes. Well, I don't know what the guy's saying. We'll get rid of him if we have to. So, let's move on now, and I'll talk about my first title there. And I'm talking about the reality of when Donald Trump Jr. is approaching. Let me pull this up. I'm going to pull this up. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I think I can. I don't have my other computer out here right now. So, Donald Trump Jr. gave an exclusive. They couldn't have used a worse picture of him. Just ridiculous. Fox News is turning into a joke, really, to tell you the truth. So Donald Trump Jr. acknowledging an exclusive.
It's about time you get internet that works.
I hate those automatic play videos. An exclusive interview with Hannity, admitted that probably would have done things a little differently when he met with a Russian attorney during his father's presidential campaign. Okay, first thing first. I don't know who is doing the. It's unbelievable. There's a stark contrast between. Well, just hold on a second and you listen to what I have to say before you start responding to this. It's unbelievable how a stark contrast between the way Donald Trump and his tweets and how aggressively he goes after the media, how different that is from the way the White House and other people involved in the White House handle their media and their spin. There's always going to be spin. And I don't agree with Donald Trump Jr. coming out and saying this at all. The Democrats, because they follow a known playbook of verified, effective techniques perfected by the Communist Party under Lenin and Stalin and Trotsky and Marx, written by Marx, they know how to play the propaganda game. Hillary Clinton was great at it. She's amazing at it because she was trained by Saul Alinsky, a communist, who said he was a communist, which was the biggest mistake he ever made in comparison to Hillary Clinton, who's never admitted that she was a communist, her or her husband. But they know how to play the game. And you would never see this. You would never see the Clintons coming out and saying that in a Fox News interview with Hannity that he probably would have done things a little differently. Here's the facts of what I'm going to lay out on this, okay? And you can take this for, listen, I was in the FBI, as most of you know. I did investigations on the criminal side, on the counterterrorism side, worked as an air marshal, did threat assessments all over the country, was a SEAL. I've literally done years and years of different types of investigations and looking at people's behaviors. That's what we do in every single one of those jobs that I had. We study people's behaviors, whether it's an enemy on the battlefield, whether you're downrange doing a foreign internal defense mission in Central South America, and you're closely paying attention to the behaviors of the people that you're working with or the community around you. If you're being followed, you're going through counterintelligence or different types of counter surveillance courses. You study behavior. I've said over and over that if you look closely at the reality of this whole process, of the way that the Russian thing has come about to be a big thing, the way the DNC and all their emails were released, the way that I will even say Seth Rich died. Of course, we can't evidently talk about that because we'll be blocked. So I'm not even going to, right now, I'm not even going to broach that subject. And then we look at the media and the way the media brings all this stuff up, the way they keep spinning it, the way that they consistently, and this is a big thing, no investigation that you will ever do will have a consistent set of circumstances that are perfectly timed and perfectly leaked and found at the perfect time. It never happens. The odds of these things happening over and over and over and over it's astronomical. We're more likely in this I don't know. It's just astronomical. I was going to come up with an odd. I'm not a mathematician. I'm from Arkansas, but I am an investigator. Every single time the DNC wants to make a point, all of a sudden, some type of evidence will just appear. And every time that evidence is a collusion from Russia. This person talked to the ambassador. That person talked to the ambassador. Hey, we just happen to know it. And we just happen to have it on tape. And here it is. And this person just happened to meet with this attorney. And this attorney just happened to say, hey, we have this evidence. We think that you might want to take a look at this because it's about Hillary. And in the email says, and I'll say it to you exactly here. The Russian official was offering, quote, some official documents and information that would incriminate Hillary Clinton as part of the, quote, Russia and its government support for Mr. Trump. Now, if Donald Trump Jr. and President and these other people, I'm really shocked by Flynn, but a lot of these people had ever been in government, they should have been more paranoid about this. Because the reality is when you see the way people are framed, the way criminals work, and when the exact right question or the exact right statement in an email that could be used against you, you just avoid that. You avoid it at all costs. If once the Russian ambassador asked to meet with somebody, okay, that happened. Hillary Clinton met with the Russian ambassador. People from her staff met with the Russian ambassador. But when the Russian ambassador purposely meets again and again and again with the Obama administration individuals, and every time the media says, well, we know he met with this person, and there's no investigation, but it's perfectly timed. The statements are perfect in that email to be used against the Trump administration. It's called goading people in. In my line of work, you have to be very careful that when I was in law enforcement, because if you literally convince a person to do something wrong, then it's entrapment. But if you find somebody trolling on a terrorist website, for instance, and then you have undercovers approach them and say, America is evil and yada yada yada, and then they say yeah, and then you say, well, we should do something, and if they say yeah, then you provide the material for them, and what happens is it's not entrapment because you didn't seek out that person to convince them to hate America. You came across or you were given evidence that this person hated America, and so you basically gave them what they needed what they were asking for to carry out an operation. That's not entrapment. So what I see in these cases is that they go to somebody who's inexperienced, like Donald Trump Jr., inexperienced in government, inexperienced in criminal behavior, and inexperienced in the way foreign counterintelligence frames people. And they go there and they say, hey, we'd really love to talk to you. Okay, we got to talk to you. It's about some important stuff. Okay, let's talk. What is it? And over email, which can be read, they say, we got some information that's going to be great against Hillary Clinton and really help your dad. Do you want it? Now, if they would have met with them and that would have come out in audio, which I kind of wish that's the way it would have gone, it would have been even better. That would have been even more evidence that the Russians are in collusion with the DNC, not the Trumps, with the DNC. You see, we're being given a picture. And it's the same as if, I've told this story before on this show, and I'm the terrible artist, but I'm going to try to draw something for you. It's the same as if you get some jigsaw puzzle, right? And on the edge of the jigsaw puzzle, you see, and I've told this story before, you see a little dog, and this looks more like a cat. So let's say it's a cat, and it's sitting there, and its little tail is up in the air, and it's sitting here. And then this is all the picture that you have, right? So let me see if you can see this. So you see, this is a 1,000-piece puzzle, one of them big old puzzles. And that's the only pieces of the puzzle that you're given. So I, the nefarious person, am giving you this piece of the puzzle just right now. And I'm telling you, that cat is evil, and it clawed people's eyes out. And we're going to find this piece of the story because we believe this cat colluded with the Trumps to destroy all these people. Right? So we paint a picture for you. And then what they can do is, instead of giving you the rest of the pieces of the puzzle, remember, this is the actual puzzle. This is actually pieces from the puzzle. It's a cat. That's all you know. But you're told what all this stuff is. And conveniently, they just were walking down the street and, oh yeah, we got this other piece of the puzzle that we found on the street. And look, it is it's somebody's eyeball, and it's got blood coming off of it. And they're like this right here. You see that? And then they give you, there's another eyeball over here. And before long, I'm not going to draw a bunch of eyeballs, but before long, you know, they're showing you proof, but it's being fed to you. And you don't know if somebody has gone out and literally clawed somebody's eyeballs out, or they took this cat and they walked up to people and said, hey, you want to pet my kitty cat? And people are like, okay, I'll pet your kitty cat. And this cat's a mean cat. And all of a sudden, and it scratches their eyes out. Or maybe they're back there pinching the cat, pissing the cat off. And when people put their face up close, they get clawed in the face. So they're building a picture of people getting their eyes clawed out. But they're making that picture happen. They're creating that picture. Do you see? If you look at it that way, and you start to, because I'm telling you folks, investigations are not this clean. There is no investigation that, I think I need a piece of evidence. Bring, there it is. It doesn't work that way. I've never seen an investigation. I've never seen an investigation that works out like this. There's been no hard evidence. It's all been circumstantial, or it's all been rumor. And then all of a sudden, something exactly like what they rumored when they had no proof of it suddenly appears. Like a cat somebody getting their eyes clawed by a cat. There's no backstory to it. We don't know anything else about it. We don't know who these attorneys are. We don't know their schedules, if they ever met with anybody from the Clintons. We don't know. We don't even know the reality of who was hacking the DNC. But what we do know is that they were told by the FBI that they were being hacked. They didn't do anything about it. And then all of a sudden, those emails appeared. Seth Rich is dead. Emails come out with Robbie Moot and Podesta saying that they need to make an example of the guy who leaked it. It's told to us that Seth Rich is the one who leaked it. He's dead. That sounds like a lesson to everybody. They want to say, oh, Trump definitely talked to this person. Well, all of a sudden, which never happens, they didn't put a FISA, a Title III FISA, up on Hillary Clinton and her staff, and they met with the Russians. But all of a sudden, they got a FISA. That's a wiretap, a FISA, Title III FISA. You can call it either one, but this was a secret Title III, so it's called a FISA, from a FISA court. They get that on the Trumps. Now, the Clintons were meeting with this person too, and we've seen no evidence showing us exactly why these FISAs were up on the Trumps. But they were. Nobody really asked that question. And the next thing you know, they're just in the news saying, this person met with that person met with a Russian, that person met with a Russian, and it's all the same Russian, the ambassador. Hillary Clinton met with a Russian, that other person from her campaign met with a Russian, but they don't say anything about that. Because why? Because that Russian, the ambassador, or somebody that works for that ambassador, I am speculating, is the source. And then when you set up Donald Trump Jr. in the same fashion, the evidence just keeps coming in periodically and when they need it. To me, it's clear in my brain. I don't know if it's clear in everybody else's brain, but listen, for those of you that are liberal and they're going to come on here and say, well, you're just some kind of Donald Trump, you're a Trumpian, you're all into Trump and you're like sold on Trump. Listen, I spent a day and a half, still today, defending myself because I put a tweet out saying that your boy got caught. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. This is what I'm talking about. So yesterday, I spent all day long defending myself against conservatives, not liberals. I talked about this last night because they're all ticked off because I basically let it be known that I am not happy with this nepotism. It sets a bad standard, a bad example for future nefarious presidents and people in general. Bernie Sanders' daughter, nepotism, got paid a whole bunch of money from a funded university that his wife is now being investigated for. John Kerry's daughter, $9.5 million from the State Department while she was overseeing the State Department. That's nepotism. It goes on and on and on. If Hillary Clinton had won and Chelsea Clinton had been here, people would be flipping out over Chelsea Clinton being involved with and I guarantee you she would have been, with the White House. But the reason I'm so hard on President Trump, which I said last night, is because I expect him to set the standards so that we can crush people that come after him and crush them in the media, crush them in court. And so we have standards because we have a good guy in office now. So he's not doing that in this case. Also, the fact that, Ivanka, I don't know Jared, but I do know that they're very, very liberal. And I didn't vote for a liberal. I voted for a leader. So, I wrote a meme about that. I get attacked all day. So before you're liberal and you come on and say all this stuff, I look at both sides of it. And I didn't elect a president that I can worship or that I'm going to get all. I've stood next to Donald Trump before. I'm sure he wouldn't remember it when I was in the FBI. I don't get all up in air about people that are famous or rich or anything like that. I didn't elect Donald Trump because he's rich. I elected him because his operational abilities to build things and reinvent himself showed me that he knows how to manage crisis and manage big operations. That's one of the main reasons why I voted for him. Plus, he doesn't take crap off of anybody. And it's about time we have a president that shows some power. Not just their ability to, let's have sanctions on that person. So before you're liberal and you come on here saying, oh, you're just saying this stuff because how can you not say that the Trumps are guilty? And how can you're just sold out like that knucklehead there a second ago, Prince of Carnes, which I hold people to task. This president should be happy that I'm holding him to task, because if I wasn't holding him to task, what I'm telling you right now would not it wouldn't be held with as much of a burden of proof as if I was going and kissing his rear end constantly saying he can do no wrong. Well, it wouldn't be the same. Look, the fact is, whoever's in office, I'm going to hold to a standard. I hold this president to the highest standard because I believe in him. But when he doesn't live up to that standard, I'm going to let him know. Now, I believe what's going on has less to do with them doing anything wrong and more to do with sources and with the Russians and Hillary Clinton have already done. I'm talking to somebody from Twitter. They're already shown to have done things together. The uranium, all these different things that Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation and Bill Clinton going around and speaking, we already know that they're in cahoots with all these people, that there's collaboration going on there with the media, with the different countries and the world leaders and the pay-to-play schemes. We've already seen it. They've destroyed Haiti. But this isn't about comparing. Look, we can go and talk about Hillary Clinton and do a whole show on this. This segment of this show is strictly about, and I'm not like most people when they call in on the radio show, when I host radio shows, and I let them call in, and they call in and they say, okay, I want to say this about Trump. I'm like, okay, where's your evidence? Well, what about this guy? And I said, no, you brought up Trump. Let's go back and let's talk about that. Show me your evidence. He's a liar. When did he lie? Well, what about this other person over here, Manafort? Okay, where's the lie? They never come up with that. See, I'm not like that. I'm going to criticize somebody. I'm going to give it to them. But this right here, if I was in Donald Trump's shoes, how would I have handled that? Well, see, it's a good question. I answered it already, but I'll tell you again. Having been in government, having seen the way, and these people should have been briefed on this by somebody, but the fact is you have a Republican Party that is full of criminals, that's full of communists. I'm talking about the establishment in the Republican Party. It's full of people that they don't care about the conservatives in this country, just like the Democratic leadership and the DNC. They don't care about liberals. They just use them. Same thing in the Republican Party. So the difference here is, if Hillary Clinton gets elected, the DNC and all that power and all the people that follow like sheep, they'll be right behind her. When Trump gets elected, the RNC has been screwing him every turn. No health, no Obama repeal. They didn't even have it ready. They don't really want it because they're all in collusion with that whole thing. So first and foremost, I would have briefed Donald Trump Jr. I would have, and I met him once. I wish I could have seen this coming. I would have told him, dude, you need to be briefed. He didn't even have security at that point, and that in itself tells me that the Republican Party was not anywhere helping these people, because if it had been anybody else from the establishment, let's say Paul Ryan was running for president, I can guarantee you his kids would have had, I don't care how old they were, they would have had protection. Donald Trump Jr. didn't have any protection at that point, and it was because the RNC was doing nothing to help out President Trump as he was running for his campaign. So if I could go back in time, I would have told Donald Trump Jr., or if I was Donald Trump Jr., I would have said, somebody brief me on how these nefarious people work. But see, I've worked in government, so I know how they are. They're going to screw you one way or another. So you have to be very, very, very aware. I would have taken no meetings in secret. I would have broadcasted who I was meeting with and broadcasted what we talked about. Because the Trumps didn't need any of these people to get elected. That's what's so great about this whole thing. President Trump got elected because the people are sick and tired of the Democratic and Republican parties. They're two private entities that own every seat of government in the United States. They monopolize government. They should not be. They should never have been allowed for parties to be in office or not in office as a part of our government. They're just so. I think they should have been briefed better on what to look for. They should have been briefed better on how to react to it, and then you wouldn't have this problem. They could have seen it coming a mile away. So let me ask this guy, some of these people, listen, when you get on here, I don't have this problem on Facebook, but on Twitter, people always come on and they always say these things. And this is what, and actually it happened on Facebook as well. I was really surprised at the people that went off on me on Facebook. Mostly women that looked like they were over 50. And they were calling me all kinds of names, saying I was ignorant, I was a buffoon, this and that. One lady, which I think I said yesterday, one lady said, this is not a big deal, the nepotism. I'm not going to rehash that, but she says, because Ivanka's getting paid as a consultant. I don't know how she knows that. And then 5 minutes later, another lady came on, totally different lady, and said, it's not a big deal with Ivanka because she's not even being paid by the administration. Most of these people, most of you all, know nothing about the reality of what's going on. That's why this show is so great for you, because you're actually hearing from somebody who's worked in government on many different levels. I've felt the burden of being screwed over in politics. I've seen failures. I can't go in the majority of the stuff that I've seen, but it would shock you if you knew what I've seen. How nefarious these leaders in government are. If you haven't seen that, I can guarantee you the people that are saying all this stuff, that are coming off like today and saying, this or that, or you don't know what you're talking about, or they're not even contemplating the fact that maybe I do know what I'm talking about. Because I know these same people, if somebody who had worked in the White House under Obama came out and was saying exactly what I was saying, they would say, well, maybe that's true. Listen, I've been there. I've done that. I know about a half dozen people that work in the White House. I have been all over media. I've sat with people like Peter Gergen before and watched this guy and then I researched. I'm sitting next to him across from Peter Bergen at CNN. Those of you who don't know, he's always on CNN. He's been in all these White Houses. He's another one of these I forget the guy's name now, that was an advisor for Obama. He was a speechwriter and then became national security advisor. But all these different people that work for Obama and the Clintons, for that matter, there's no background. And this guy was exactly the same way. I'm sitting across from him, Peter Bergen, and wait, am I saying the right name? Let me make sure that's the right guy. Hold on a second. Let me look this up. I want to make sure I'm telling the right story. No, it was not Peter Bergen. He's the guy I got in an argument with. I'm trying to think who this guy's name is. He has worked. Let me see here. Let me see here. Faces of CNN. Ooh, man. Political contributors. Let's see here. Boy, I got a whole list of these people. This is like a list of people that I would never hang out with. Let's see here. Wow. I've never looked at all these people all at the same time before like this. Huh, they got Glenn Beck down there as one. Why don't I see his name here? Well, anyway, regardless. Wait, maybe it's here. Hold on. Stand by. Jim Scudo. Well, I don't see him on here. Anyway, he's on here somewhere. I'll find him here in a minute. But so anyway, I'm sitting across from this guy. He's worked in a bunch of White Houses. And I start looking him up. And there's nothing to this guy. Nothing. He literally graduated college and somehow found his way working in the White House and has been this big time consultant for all these presidents over and over, and I could never figure out why he was there. I don't remember even why I started down this road, but I know what it is. People will take their words for it because they're on television or because they've worked in the White House. I'm here to tell you, folks, neither one of those reasons are good reasons to trust somebody. You have to look at their overall experience. And, oh, wait, is it David? David, I say David Bergen, I think, right? Gergen. David Gergen. That's it. There you go. So David Gergen, he's a Harvard grad. Same resume as all of them. Let's see. Done. Give up on him. Shaggy. David Gergen. Yeah, there it is. So David Gergen, I'm sitting across from him. Nothing. There's nothing there. So let me get my thoughts back. See, that's what my problem is in my brain. That's why I need a brain room. Because once I get focused on something, he's an elitist snob. Yes, you're right. And so getting back to all this stuff. It's so funny because people say Harvard conspiracy, Gergen is this. It's this. Listen, you're smart enough to see this, folks. If you're not an investigator, you know something's up with this Russian thing. You just can't make heads or tails of it because the picture's being painted for you. But you're smart enough to know that that no investigation is ever that clean. Just like you know when David Gergen is some kind of weird Harvard conspiracy type weirdo. It's all the same stuff. You have to look and take a step back. Stop being loyal to politicians and worshiping them like they're some kind of saviors. If they were saviors, folks, first of all, we wouldn't have to worry about sin anymore. And secondly, our country wouldn't be on the edge of destruction. So, hello, Michael Blanco, the guy who gets younger the older he gets. So that's the whole point I'm trying to make here, folks, is that with Donald Trump Jr. and this whole thing that's coming out now, first of all, I don't know who's advising them on what to say. All right. There you go. See, here's the other thing I do, folks. I'm not going to sit here and continuously argue with people and try to point something out when they don't want to hear it. That normally tells me that they're just a troll or they're stupid. So Donald Trump and them should have been briefed long before any of this stuff. They should be handling their media different. There should be no apologies. They're in the highest office in the land. If they did something wrong and they don't want to get caught, they're not going to apologize for it. So if you didn't do anything wrong, why would you come on and do this? It's not helping anything. They should be full frontal attack, saying every time this evidence just mysteriously appears, it is showing us more and more evidence that somebody in government is working with the DNC and that they have a source over in Russia, and they're just making up this evidence as they go along. That's the truth about how all this stuff is working. Somebody's asking if I've been briefed on this stuff. I can't go in. I'm not going to go into how much I know because, you know, I just got out of the FBI 4 years ago. So I can't really go into too much of what I know. But I will tell you this. I don't need to know. I'm not one of these people like CNN that says going to give you anonymous source information. Okay, I'm not going to do that because typically if it's anonymous source information, it's either going to get somebody I know in trouble at the Bureau or it's classified and you don't need to know it. What I'm telling you is that from an investigator standpoint, I'm looking at this and I'm seeing a consistent pattern. And the consistent pattern is not that the Trumps are guilty. It's that information and a picture is being created to feed to the people to make you think that they're doing something wrong. Now, I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, that guy just worships Trump. That's not true. I hold him to the highest standard. If he doesn't add up to that standard, I criticize him for it. If he doesn't do a good job, then I'll be the first person to say he needs to be out of there in 4 years. He's been doing a great job as far as I can tell, with the exception of this media stuff. But when I look at it from an investigative standpoint, it's just too clean. Investigations just don't work out this way. They just don't. Paul Manafort, you're exactly right. He should have known better. So the other thing is, I don't know who around them might have been put into place or gotten to. That's the other thing, folks. You could have a person that's very loyal, but they did something wrong, and somebody gets to them and says, we're going to ruin your marriage. We're going to bring you out in front of the public. And because that's how evil these people are. They're not doing it because we want to get this guy and we want to frame him because we love the country and they shouldn't be president. It's not about that. They hate Trump not because they are afraid he's going to hurt the country. They hate Trump because, first of all, he's taken away their blood money, and secondly, he's about nationalism, not globalism, and the globalists hate that. They hate it. If Trump had ran on a globalist platform, it would have been great. And I can guarantee you something, folks. My opinion on this is that if Trump had not won the nomination, I don't care who the Republican nominee would have been, they would have lost. And the reason is because just like Obamacare, they're all in collusion with the DNC and the globalists. That's the truth. Trump stepped in the middle of that. He put a big boot up the middle of that plan, and you are seeing the results of that. A shadow government, if you will, a group of politicians and money brokers that are just like a secret society, how you have the inner workings and then you have all these other people that are swearing oaths. They don't really know what they're swearing an oath to, but the people at the top, it's not that they really care about the oath. They're utilizing all those people. They're utilizing all their connections for their greater good. And that's what the DNC and the RNC do with everybody that's under them. They use all this energy, division, all this stuff for their greater good. And their greater good is more money, more money, more money, more power, and less borders so that they can have more power and more places and bigger money all around the world. That's what they're doing. If you agree with me, you agree with me. If you don't, you don't. Let's go to the B block. And I'm going to talk about one more thing. And then I'm going to close this up. A lot of good energy for late at night. All right, let me look at one thing here. Okay. I want to play a video for you guys. And I'm going to have to, no, I can actually still watch this. Okay. I'm going to pull up here. And I'm sorry again with Facebook if I'm not getting to your chats. I'm looking over at you every now and then, but you guys talk amongst yourself. You're doing good. If any of you, there's 98 people that are on Facebook right now, make sure you go over to YouTube and follow me there, subscribe to my page, and just go on and click on this show for a second so we get a view. Also, if you haven't shared on Facebook, make sure you share it. And on Twitter, make sure you retweet it so other people can see that as well. We want to build this up. Let me get this here and plug this in. So I want you to hear this interview. This is on Fox News. Let's see here. Let me plug this in. All this stuff was torn down on my trip. I didn't even use it. All right, let me plug this in. All right, so let me close this out. I'm going to pull up this thing on Fox News. This doesn't really have a lot to do with what I'm talking about, but it's going to make sense to you. Hopefully, after this conversation. Just have to let it load here. They found a weird place to put this, too. It's on the story with Donald Trump Jr. For some reason, they don't put that video at the top. They put another video about the they do this all the time. They put the video up there, unless they just changed it. I bet they just changed it. Let's see here. Stand by. Loading. Loading. Commercial. 13 seconds. We got to wait 13 seconds. Am I frozen everywhere? No, we're good. Alrighty. here we go. Let's see if this is it. Nope. They changed the video. Okay, hold on a second here. If I can't find it, which I really hope I can because there's a good soundbite that you guys would... Man, oh man. Doop. Hold on. Well, I'm not going to find it, but the guy was talking about today, they changed the video in the past hour. The guy was talking about the new, the guy who's being looked at as FBI director. And Tim Kaine, that guy's the creepiest dude in the world. Here you go. Here it is. Okay. Here's the reason why I keyed in on this video is because they're talking about a guy named John Malcolm. He worked with Christopher Wray, the guy who's, it sounds like a serial killer, the guy who the president has chosen to be the FBI director. And I can't think of a worse choice. It's like Comey and Mueller light. This guy has worked around both of them and has been a part of the same inner circles. So I wanted to play this, and I want you to first of all listen to how this guy is kissing this guy's rear. He's either been put on there by Christopher Wray or he is trying to get a job back with him. So let's listen to this. I think I got to go through another commercial first. Hold on. Yeah. All right, Planet Fitness, get out of here. We got to get some commercials on this show. Some reads. Like when I was on Wilkow's, hosting Wilkow's show for him over Christmas, I kept having to do pajamagram reads. All right, let's see here. Come on. There's no way that was 13 seconds. No way. All right, here it is.
Well, we don't have to tell you that former FBI Director James Comey dominated headlines this week after testifying before the Senate Intelligence Committee. But also in the headlines, a name to replace him. President Trump tapping Christopher Wray, a former DOJ official, to lead the Bureau. Here with some insight into Wray is John Malcolm, Vice President of the Heritage Foundation. Malcolm also served as one of Wray's deputies at the DOJ Criminal Unit, and the history goes back a little bit even before that. So, first of all, John, thank you so much for joining us. So I think so many people are curious, who is this man? And you have a special insight to him. Can you tell us?
So, let me just point out something that is wrong with media. I don't know this girl. She looks a lot like, wow, never realized this before. I don't know what her name is on Fox News, but she looks exactly like Megyn Kelly. Could they get, oh, hold on a second, you can't see, I got to turn the light down. Could they get somebody that looks more like Megyn Kelly to do this? Holy cow. It's like Megyn Kelly light. Everybody's light. Okay. But this is the problem with media. Probably a nice girl, studied journalism, I'm sure. Sorry for the cough. She knows nothing about what she's asking. She's reading off a teleprompter. She's never been in the FBI. She's not an attorney with the DOJ. She's asking questions that are, and his answers are going to thrill her. When in fact, I'm hearing these answers and I'm like cringing because it is a song and dance, what we used to call in the military a dog and pony show. That's all this is. Let's listen to it.
A little bit about him and your history working with him.
Sure. Well, he's an incredibly intelligent guy. Chris went to Yale undergraduate and Yale Law School. He then clerked.
Right there. Should not be the director. If we should stop right there. I not that I hate Yale any more than any other school. I'm done with Ivy League schools. If I think America should rebel against Ivy League schools because, for one, it creates fake great leaders. The majority of the people in our federal government are from an Ivy League school, and our federal government is one of the biggest failed governments in world history. So that means nothing to me when somebody says they're from Yale. Nothing. In fact, I almost giggle or laugh a little bit. I mean, it's like if I had a company and say, here's my diploma from Yale, I'd be like, yeah, go ahead. We're good. Give me somebody from, the University of Texas, from the University of Arkansas. Give me somebody from, I don't know, University of Arkansas, Little Rock, where I went, like a small school like that. I don't need. Give me somebody from VMI. If I had it my way, I'd hire my whole entire cabinet would be full of people from VMI.
For Mike Ludig, who was a judge on the Fourth Circuit.
Okay, here's the other thing I wanted you to hear. All right.
I'm working with it.
Now I'm going to start this over with. Remember this when you're listening to this, folks. And this is another investigative thing I have. Annie, you can't leave. This is another thing I've noticed throughout the past couple of years of watching politics closely, is that Barack Obama, Ted Cruz, this guy, and on and on and on. We can talk about how they went to an Ivy League school and then immediately clerked for either a Supreme Court justice or a federal judge. So they immediately go from college to right up here. And next thing you know, they're a big-time prosecutor or a big-time lawyer, and then they're in politics or they're being appointed to something. The rest of us, we have to work to prove ourselves. These people do not prove. There's nothing they do to prove themselves. They just go bing, bang, boom. Okay, you did great. You got into a school and you made good grades. That's something. I'm not taking away from that. But I've been around Harvard grads and big people with PhDs, and they were terrible teammates, terrible employees, and I would never work around them. Go figure. I sat down with nothing to drink. So when this guy starts talking about Chris Wray's resume, just keep that in mind as it goes.
Sure. Well, he's an incredibly intelligent guy. Chris went to Yale undergraduate and Yale Law School. He then clerked for Mike Ludig, who was a judge on the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, highly regarded. He's now general counsel at Boeing. After that, his wife is from Atlanta. He moved to Atlanta. I was a prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time when he...
This guy can't kiss any more butts at the same time.
Moved to Atlanta. He went to the firm of King and Spalding, where he became a protege of Griffin Bell, who'd been Attorney General under Jimmy Carter, and Larry Thompson. I left the U.S. Attorney's Office. We just missed...
Do we want anybody associated with Jimmy Carter at all? I don't think so.
Overlapping. At the beginning of '97, when Chris Wray went into that office, he was there for 4 years. He worked on a number of very high-profile cases, worked with a lot of FBI agents, worked very closely with former Deputy Attorney General Sally.
Worked very closely with FBI agents. Here's the funny thing about the DOJ. It's very similar to the FBI in that when I went in the FBI, having been a SEAL and an Air Marshal, it wasn't like I was I would have to raise my hand and say, yes, I want to be on SWAT. Okay, great. You got all the qualifications. You're now on SWAT. And then you have to learn their tactics, techniques, and procedures. No, it wasn't like that. I go out for SWAT, and they say out of 40 people that I came in 8th on this mysterious matrix that they have, but they only chose 7. Darn it. They thought they were going to choose 8, but they only chose 7. And they do that because they want special forces types to come there to try out over and over again, to do one of two things, either to get them to not come in or to make sure that they are going to be submissive when they come in and subordinate to everybody so that they won't come in there and rock the boat. So on the contrast of that, if I was an attorney and I came in and I said, I want to work in or white collar, say you were a stockbroker before. You come in, you raise your hand, you say, well, I was a stockbroker before. I'd like to work white collar. Boom, you're going to go over to white collar. Or I'm an attorney. I've been practicing in a prosecutor's office. I would like to be one of the legal attaches for the FBI. Boom, you're now working in the legal department of the FBI. But that doesn't happen with special forces. Well, it's the same thing, though. The DOJ kind of runs like that. If you're an attorney, you're somehow, if you've been in the DOJ as an attorney, as a prosecutor, you're somehow qualified to run the FBI. But if you were an FBI agent for 20 years, you're not qualified to run the DOJ, and you're somehow not qualified to run the FBI. Why is it that we keep putting people in charge of these agencies that have never worked in the agency? Just because they worked around the agency, it doesn't matter to me. I want an agent running the agency. Now, here's the other thing I want you to listen to as this guy talks. Listen how if you didn't know that he was talking about Chris Wray, you would think he's talking about James Comey the way everybody described James Comey.
And then when George W. Bush won the election, we both moved to Washington and worked at the Justice Department. Chris Wray was the principal deputy to Larry Thompson, who was the deputy attorney general. I was a deputy under Mike Chertoff in the criminal division at the Department of Justice. Go ahead. And then when he became head of the criminal division, I was one of his deputies.
I think, and I don't want to interrupt you, but it sounds like there's so many pieces of that puzzle that make him equipped to lead the FBI. Anything that stands out in particular to you where you feel like that history will fit in very nicely?
Oh,
it's
sure.
The top, I mean, it's a big deal.
Sure. I mean, in addition to the fact that when he was a prosecutor for 4 years as a line attorney, he worked very closely with FBI agents. I mean, he was at the Department of Justice during the Enron time, post 9/11 time. He worked on a daily basis. He had briefings every morning with Bob Mueller when he was FBI director. When Jim Comey became Deputy Attorney General, he dealt with Jim Comey every day. When Chris was head of the criminal division and Comey was the deputy.
Okay, so let me just get this straight. The guy that President Trump is proposing to take over the FBI was a prosecutor that worked under Comey and Mueller and was one of the prosecutors that stood with Comey and Mueller against the president when he wanted to do something. This President Bush. I don't remember exactly what it was. So they're tight. These guys are very tight. And that's the guy, after Mueller, Comey did what he did and has lied under oath and revealed classified information to a source to be leaked to the press while he's director of the FBI. Mueller, who practically destroyed the FBI and is the kind of the mentor to James Comey. That's why they're both so crappy. And is now the special prosecutor that it took. I mean, if I'd have been tasked as special prosecutor, I would have said, where's the case? Don't you have to have a case for there to be a special prosecutor? But he's not going to do that because all these people are politicians. This guy ran in the same circles they did. Why on earth would he put this guy up?
He knows the ins and outs of the FBI from the ground level, from the regular investigator, all the way up through every facet of the FBI, and he's superbly qualified. Regardless
of your resume, still have the Senate, the hearings, the confirmation hearings. What could be a sticking point? What in his history do you feel like is going to come up and it's going to be contentious regardless of whether or not he's qualified?
Well, the only thing I've heard anybody mention is that he represented Chris Christie with respect to this Bridgegate scandal.
That could be a sticking point, considering Chris Christie is a organized crime master and is also a master at closing bridges and beaches down when he wants to get back at people. Chris Christie doesn't care. He's a perfect example of these GOP elitists that don't care about the people that they are managing the country for. It's not like the country exists for them. The reality is they exist to manage the country and make sure our lives are taken care of. Chris Christie doesn't do that. He shuts down a beach on Memorial Day purposely to make the opposition do what he wants. He shut down the GW Bridge up here, which could have been a terrorist dream if they just walked across that bridge and started shooting people, because the whole bridge was shut down with people on it. And that was all due to Chris Christie and his cabinet basically not getting their way and sticking it to somebody. I think it was the mayor up there at Fort Lee. So Chris Christie is a bully. I don't even consider the guy's weight. Chris Christie is an ugly person. I don't look at his physical appearance. Chris Christie is an ugly person that is an elitist and utilizes his position to get what he wants and to bully his way into positions of power and money. That's what Chris Christie does. And his family's okay with that, just like any other mobster's family. They know what he does. They don't care. So this guy represented Chris Christie. That should say a lot about his connections.
Of course, there are some people who don't like Governor Christie. All I can say, of course, is that Christie did a superb job because Governor Christie didn't end up getting charged with anything. I suppose people will seek assurances that he's going to be independent of.
Typical lawyer. Chris Christie's done a great job because he didn't get charged with anything. Okay, that's what an attorney would say. He's not guilty because he didn't get charged, right? He was found not guilty, he wasn't found innocent. You got to remember that, folks. Attorneys love the fact that people are found not guilty, because if the prosecutor can't prove guilt, then they can't convict them. But it's not like the burden of proof is that for them to find them innocent. That's not the case. That's not the way our legal system works. You must find this person innocent, or they're gonna be charged. No, they have to prove that they are guilty or not guilty. Now, does that make sense to everybody? Proving innocence is way more difficult than proving not guilty, because you can prove not guilty by simply not presenting any evidence. If you don't have evidence that somebody's guilty, they're not going to be proven guilty. If you have the burden of innocence where they have to show that they're innocent, that's where we've shifted these things. So the defense doesn't have to show that the person is innocent. The defense doesn't. The prosecution has to show that they are guilty, which means they have to bring evidence forward that shows this person did this crime. If the prosecution can't provide that evidence, then the person is found not guilty, but they're not found innocent. That's a totally different thing. If our judicial system was like it is in other countries, the burden of proof would be on the defense, and the defense would have to prove innocence, which is virtually impossible to do a lot of the times. Basically, it's virtually impossible. Because if somebody says, well, I wasn't there, there's no way I could have done it, and you prove that, yeah, they were in their house, you're just showing that there's evidence that says they're not guilty, most likely because they were here. But you don't know. This person could have been in collusion. They could have, innocence is, it's good that it is the way it is. But when he's saying, as an attorney, that Chris Christie did a great job because he was found not guilty, that's an attorney sidestepping the fact that Chris Christie was involved with that, and his staff was involved with it. His staff were people that worked for him for like 15 years, and you're going to tell me that Chris Christie isn't going to know when his staff is shutting down a bridge and causing something that could get people killed? And this guy defended him.
President.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is there any history between Christopher Wray and the president? Will we see that come up? Will that be a contentious issue?
No. So far as I know, the first time they met was when the president interviewed him. Chris Wray is well aware of the fact that Lady Justice wears a blindfold. He's not going to be the FBI director.
Remember that. Just like everybody else that comes on there, sounds like James Comey. Lady Justice wears a blindfold, and he's not going to be partial to the president or somebody else like this. James Comey said the exact same thing, and he was very partial to Obama, very partial to his boss in the DOJ, and very impartial to President Trump. Loretta Lynch, I don't know why I couldn't remember that name.
For conservatives or liberals, he's not going to be the FBI director for Republicans or Democrats. He's going to be the FBI director for the nation. And
that has never happened. This will be a first. A guy's going to be a FBI director for the people, not for the person that appointed him, or for the next person that comes in that he knows if he pisses off, he's going to lose his job. That's not how the director of the FBI works, because they're all politicians, and they're going to appease whoever's in office, unless that person is a complete disaster and criminal. In that case, they're going to hide, and they're going to protect themselves.
Will conduct himself with professionalism, dedication, in a completely apolitical, nonpartisan manner.
What I want to ask you, my last question looking forward, is what type of environment is he getting into right now? It's a hard job to begin with, and a hard job right now.
Well, he's up to the task. He's been given a little bit of breathing room because Bob Mueller has been appointed as the special prosecutor with the his
buddy Bob Mueller. See, this whole group, Comey gets put out. They put Bob Mueller in to do the special prosecution. Comey's going to come off clean. This guy's going to step in, and you're in the same. It's the same boat. It's like they said, okay, Comey was steering the boat. He's no good at it. And all three guys went to the same training on how to steer a boat, right? Mueller was steering it. It was all over the place. Comey took over. The boat's all over the place. No. We got to put another guy in there. Let's take Chris Wray and put him in the back, and the boat's going to be all over the place. It's going to be that simple, folks.
To the Russian investigation, so Chris Wray can go about the task of being the head of the nation's top investigative law enforcement agency and take care of the rest of the problems that exist in our nation, including counterterrorism. And boy, do we need somebody of the caliber of Chris Wray.
And I know that was my last question, but when you worked for him, because a lot of people are saying this is my new boss, what is he like to work under?
Oh, he's
that's an in-depth question.
Incredibly ethical, hardworking, a very pleasant guy. He's got a lovely family and dedicated to the task.
Wow. It's almost like he just described James Comey, who's a criminal, Bob Mueller, who is a disaster of a manager, or any other number of people that have worked in and around the DOJ or the FBI at executive levels. He just described them. And all of them are either failures of an extreme magnitude or they are criminals, one of the two. Isn't that interesting? Weirdos. Anyway, listen. Let's call it a night before my voice goes. I got to take Rico for a walk. He's been stuck in the truck all day. Note to self, if you have an old dog and you pull into the rest stop and he starts whining, don't go start checking your Facebook or Twitter because people are, trolling you and making you angry. Just stop. Get out, take the dog outside, let him go to the bathroom, because if you don't, he's probably going to poop in the back of your truck, which he did. Didn't you? Where are you? Hey. He's over there laying down mad at me. All right, I'll take him out. Don't worry. I got what I deserved. I know. He's good. He's actually been doing really good. Going over to Norma's and being in the country is pretty remarkable. So let's do this, folks. Let's go to the Truth Zone. Let's close it out. Sorry again for being late, but the rest of this week should be good to go. And let's do it.
Shalabo.
We don't need none of that. Listen, serious stuff here, folks. What's your takeaway for today? 1, don't worship politicians. If I ever run for a political office, you better hold me to the standard the way Becky holds me to the standard of getting the show on time every day. Right, Becky? Hold them to standard. If you're a politician and you're honest, you should invite that and you should be thankful for it. Because first of all, you shouldn't be wanting a job in politics for the rest of your life unless you plan on being a congressman, a senator, a president, and a judge, and you want to go step by step. We need to stop making these people celebrities. But also, if you're going to run for office or if you're going to do anything in government, you need to realize that nefarious people are out there. And the American people need to realize that you're being painted a picture of what might not be the truth. I mean, isn't that what politics is all about? What political party? What political branch? What country's political government is doing anything right these days? Tell me one. There is not one. And that comes down to a few reasons. By and large, politics and politicians have subscribed to liberal and conservative. They subscribe to globalists or nationalists. And by and large, They're globalists. They utilize the liberal and conservative to get votes, but by and large, they all want the same thing. By and large, they're all communist, socialist, globalist, criminal. And just like that attorney in that video, they will say things like, oh, well, they're good guys because they were found not guilty. Or they're good because they've been in office for 30 years. But when you look at the results of what they've done, it's been a failure. You can't trust these people. There's people dying in this country of starvation that shouldn't be. There are people that their education is so bad because of the mismanagement of the Department of Education and the schools, all for politics. Shouldn't be like that. What is happening with this Trump investigation shouldn't be happening. But the FBI and the DOJ have been subverted, and there's people at the top and people loyal to those people at the top that are criminal. And they're doing nefarious things to overthrow and subvert the office of the President of the United States. It's real, folks. This isn't a conspiracy. I'm not telling you something that I made up. Study it. Look into it. Listen to what I'm saying. And if you don't believe me, stop. Don't get angry. Go look and watch. Just watch for a while. And you'll see. You'll see what I'm telling you. I'm not going to tell you something that's not true. I'm not going to lead you astray. And if I'm ever wrong, I'm going to tell you I was wrong. What I am is Jonathan Gillum, and that's Rico. We're about to go for a walk. And as always, we'll see you tomorrow on The Experts. The truth has arrived.
My name is Shine Bow, and I want to make sure you go to the GoFundMe page for old Mr. Gillum here. I call him Mr. Gillum because I'm just a little punk. But listen, go to the GoFundMe page, gofund.me/The Experts Roadshow. Make sure you do that. It's good for the country, and it's good for you. And Sean Wilson, why are you just joining at the end of the show, boy?
Some guy wanted to bring up the fact that I have a dog, and I'm always in the pictures with dogs. I guess he thought he was insulting me. That's no insult, right, buddy? If you hate dogs, you need to go to live in the Middle East somewhere. Man's best friend. I'll be in heaven with this dog. Peace!